Prior to entering the production phase where we actually assemble our pamphlet, we need to go through some of the pre-production process where we actually get the building blocks or the pieces that are going to go into that pamphlet. So that requires a little research. And by building blocks, I'm referring to, for example, some of the text, the content that will explain what it is we are reviewing, and also some images to go along with that, or any other type of media, such as some bitmap or clip art. Now, in this case, I'm going to start off by looking at the leisure section of my pamphlet, and more specifically, one of the topics in leisure I'm going to look at is the theater in Montreal. Now, in Montreal, there is a theater well known as the Centaur Theater, and right now I'm under a web search. I actually want to go to an image search. Now, you'll notice that there are a variety of images here, and you can filter these images. There are images that are low resolution, such as this one, 332 by 500, or this one, which is 2000 by 1698. So it's a much clearer, much crisper, more detail in the image. However, as I mentioned, you can filter the images. Let's say you wanted to search by tiny images, the smallest image size, which is icon size. Well, you're going to get a lot more variety there, so you will get more content in terms of visuals, but the clarity simply won't be there. Now, here's the title of a play, and we can't even make out those letters. If we go to any size, here we'll get a mishmash of medium-sized images, large images. Or if you're making a poster, you're going to want to stick just to large. However, let's assume that I'm not finding the types of images I want for that pertain to the Centaur Theater. I want actual actors on stage, let's say. Then I could return to a web search as opposed to an image search and go to the actual theater, the Centaur Theater. And when I enter their website, I may get some images that actually pertain to what's going on right now, something that's current. Now, let's say I want to grab some of these visuals. Let's say, for example, I want to start off by using this image here, the logo, as a header. So here I'm going to copy this image, and holding my command key and then hitting tab, I'll flip through my programs that are open and I'll jump over to Photoshop. From Photoshop, I will go File, New. Now Photoshop will automatically, when I ask for a new canvas, it will automatically suggest a canvas that's the size of the image that I just copied into my clipboard. And if I click OK, here you go, we get kind of a banner sized image. And if I go paste, voila. Now I'm going to cut the box office component out, and I'm going to take my square selection tool here, and I'm just going to click down and drag across and isolate that image. Now once it's selected, I'm going to go to Image, Crop, and there we go. It crops out the excess that was there. And now I'm going to save this as a JPEG. Save as. I'll go to my Documents folder, and of course this is a geography project, my geography pamphlet. Sorry, I'm doing my leisure column, so I could call this Centaur underscore logo. I never use spaces when you're file naming, especially if you intend to use them on the internet, because spaces will sometimes be ignored by certain browsers and then your files won't load. So center, I'm making it one long string, Centaur underscore logo.jpg. And I'll save that and close it. Now let's go back to the website. Now let's say this image over here, something interesting is going on. Let's say I want one of these images. You'll notice that it's kind of animated. If I right click on this, you'll notice that it is a flash image. There is no save option or copy option. Now let's say I want to rip part of this image off. What you can do is on the PC you can hit the print screen button. That will copy the entire screen into your clipboard, and then bring that into Photoshop, and then repeat the steps I just did earlier where you use your selection tool, select just that piece of the image you want, and crop. Or here on a Mac, we can do, now the famous screenshot for a Mac is Shift Command 3. However, on a Mac, if you do Shift Control Command 4, we can actually draw a box around the part of the image that we wanted, and it takes a snapshot of that very image. And that snapshot is actually in my clipboard. So if I flip back to Photoshop and I go File, New, it's in my memory. It's not an actual shot that's been saved. And I paste that, and there we go. If you actually wanted a physical file saved automatically when you selected that image, you would do Shift Command 4 as opposed to Shift Control Command 4. Shift Command 4. And there's another one. And if I go to my desktop, look here. If I click on that image, hit my spacebar to do a quick view, there you go. So these I could right click and just open with Photoshop, and there you go. So I have my two images, and I could save these. File, Save As, and to my leisure. And call that one Maiden. Save it as a JPEG. And close it. And we have this one as well too. Notice always the shortcuts to accelerate the process. Here it's Shift Command S will do a Save As. Quick way to bring up the save option. We shall save as a JPEG. Okay, so there we have a couple of images. Now, let's say we want some information. We want to get some text information for a pamphlet as well. And we go off and check out some of the plays. This more recent one looks pretty spectacular. And here we have a little write-up. So we may want to grab a bit of the write-up for future reference. We're not going to copy this word for word and put it in our pamphlet. We will paraphrase. But let's go to a Word document and paste this so that we have a write-up of the play. And we're going to narrow that down into a few words. We also should have the title of the play in there. So here, Centaur Theatre Presents, and some other pertinent information. Here, I'll put this above the paragraph text. And we should have the dates, right? So people know when it's actually playing. This is all pertinent information. And then finally, what about contacting the theater? If somebody wants to contact the theater, let's go to Contact Us. And here we go, including the fax number, just in case. And you know, the last bit of information I think you should gather is the actual web domain. You really need that. So let's copy this web domain, go back here, paste it with the rest of the contact info. And there, now we have the first section, some information, text information for the first section of our pamphlet. And we also have a few images to work with. And all of this will be crunched down into maybe 20 words. Right now it's probably about 75 to 80 words. We may crunch it down to 15 to 20 words with some very basic info. Web address, title of the play, maybe I probably wouldn't even put a summary in there. Name of the theater and the dates it's playing. And you should save this info in your leisure section. So let's save this as Centaur_info. Now, as opposed to saving it as a docx, which is the most recent version of Word, I'm going to save it as Word 2004, Word 97 2004 doc, an older version, just in case I'm on another computer later on and I have an older version of Word. It won't be able to open a docx. So I'm going to save it down to a lower version, which is a good idea if ever you're emailing attachments to people. Word documents, you never know if they have the more recent version of Word, and therefore you should always save down a version. So there we have it. We have our text, we have our graphics, and we are ready to put together the first section of our leisure column.